Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pirate Radio. I'm your host who needs no introduction, and welcome back. It's been a eventful week. So anyway, let's just get started. Those of you who don't know or are not in the know, don't pay attention. That's probably why you listen to this show. There are cameras popping up around your local AO, your area of operation, if you will, your hometowns, your major cities, all of those things are popping up. These cameras, known as Flock cameras, are popping up all around, and these are sold to us. Flock is a name brand, okay, like Kleenex. Kleenex are facial tissues, but they're so popular, everyone just calls facial tissues Kleenex, so it's the name brand. It's like Googling something, what have you. Flock is one of those. They are a major brand of surveillance cameras and surveillance tech. They are a digital asset company who collects data on anyone who drives by. So if you're not familiar with a Flock camera, they are those big black like posts with what looks like a light and a little solar panel. So they're kind of autonomous. You can basically put them anywhere. They have their own battery backup system. They have a battery storage system. They have tons of precious metals inside. And they have a camera, and it's 24/7 surveillance, license plate readers. Okay, so that's what we're told, is that they're license plate readers. And they do read license plates, and it's all for safety. By the way, I was going to do this episode before Tucker did his thing 1 or 2 days ago about Flock. So, you know, birds of a feather, or like minds, brilliant minds, whatever you want to say. But in the greater space, if you will, of podcasting and right-wing media people and all of that, Tucker's caught a lot of flack because he's talked about Israel. He's questioned our relationship with Israel, and all of those people who are insane and like rabidly foaming at the mouth about Israel, they hear this magical dog whistle. So every time Tucker mentions Israel, they want to throw a fit about it, and they have to talk about Tucker. But when he mentions, you know, Fourth Amendment violations and the surveillance state and sort of like Brave New World or 1984, two George Orwell novels, they're very silent, which to me means they're kind of signing off on them. The Ben Shapiros, the Mark Levins, the Jeremy Borings, the Joel Berrys, the Officer Tatum. He's a retard, so he doesn't really count. He's just, you know, he's the DEI hire of Con Inc. All of these people who supposedly care about America and care about our relationships and this and that, and they're America first, so long as it involves Israel, or they're America first, but we have to protect Israel because they're an ally, but we're America first. Don't talk about Flock cameras whatsoever in the surveillance state that has popped up around us. These are not like, you know, 20 years ago, a camera at an intersection was a big deal, and they put those in saying that, oh, those are there to know when the traffic signal should change. They read the traffic. Okay, well, if they read the traffic, then what else are they doing? And then it then went from that into getting tickets for running red lights or yellow lights or anything like that. And it's all about safety, although it's never actually prevented one single car crash. It's just a revenue generator. So it's not about safety. And Flock cameras and their ilk are another wave of this. And there's any number of videos where you can look up that people are talking about how the Flock cameras can be hacked, can be looked into. They're always constantly surveilling. They're always constantly monitoring. And it's not just about that they're looking for license plates. Some of them are not even faced towards roadways. There's plenty of pictures where people have noticed a Flock camera that's looking at a children's playground, like a park with a children's playground. Okay, well, you're not reading license plates at a children's playground when you're pointed at the jungle gym or the monkey bars or the whatever, the slide. So it's obviously a lie. And here locally, case in point. So there's any number of cucks that will defend these constantly. That, oh, we have to have this because it's about safety. They're the same people that told you that you had to wear a mask to protect me from getting the sniffles. From an advanced form of the sniffles or the flu or whatever it was, you had to get jabbed, so I didn't get the thing, even though if I got the jab thing, then I should be fine if it's safe and effective and works the way you said it works, but I digress. So these things are in the name of safety. So locally here in the Tulsa area, we had an incident that happened. It's been about a week ago. We had an unauthorized gathering, as the Tulsa Police Department put it. Basically, it's a bunch of teenagers that met up at an open field of some sort, parking lot style thing, started shooting off fireworks, and the ethnics started getting into a fight. Scuffle breaks out, guns are drawn, shots are fired. I believe one, if not two people ended up dead, like a 16 and a 14-year-old shot. Bad deal. And then the Tulsa police told us that they were able to respond and they were able to catch the perpetrators because of the flock camera system was able to catch everybody leaving, and they were able to catch who did the shooting and the car they got in, and they were able to then apprehend the suspects. Well, I have a problem with that in that, okay, so these cameras are live. They're seeing what's going on. They see this unauthorized gathering in which kids are shooting off fireworks. Mind you, this is like 2 a.m, between midnight and 3 a.m. that they're doing this. So why didn't the Tulsa Police Department show up in this unauthorized gathering? Mind you, I'm doing air quotes every time I say unauthorized gathering because that is the verbiage used by the Tulsa Police Department. Yet they let this unauthorized gathering continue on until somebody got shot and killed and multiple others injured until they actually showed up. And then they said that after this unauthorized gathering that they were able to catch them because of the flock camera system, which caught license plates, but also caught people getting into the car and then the license plate and any number of other things that it caught. So they're telling you already what these cameras are doing. And before I go too much further, I forgot to mention that we still have our discount code. I should probably put the banner up too. We're still producing at a rate in which you're all used to if you listen to or watch this show. Anyway, go to Die Free Co. on the World Wide Webs. Get all the things you want to get, put them in your cart, then enter code TOXIC10. That's TOXIC and the number 10 at checkout for 10% off. Support the channel, support them. Any dollar I make, which I haven't made many dollars, but I have made some dollars off being an affiliate for them. And it is a product that I use. It's on, there's a 300 blackout rifle right here that has their little barrier stop / sling swivel thing. We have a AR grip here. And I've got a couple of more somewhere over there behind you on an SBR build that I'm doing. I filed the paperwork, haven't gotten it back yet, so I can't assemble said SBR build. But anyway, go there, do the thing. Thank you. Anyway, so I thought it would be interesting to, here's the thing about like the flock cameras. It's much like data centers, and these things are commingled, of course. You can't really have a whole network of flock cameras without data centers, but here's the thing. Are they really illegal? So I wanted to kind of flesh out in real time, are they really illegal? Because they've been signed off on by, the powers that be in your local community. That doesn't necessarily make it legal. There's no legislation that says flock cameras or any sort of systems like it are allowed to happen. And mind you, Flock is expanding their reach by doing drone technology and going to use surveillance drones over areas. Theoretically, you'd use these over something like sporting events, major sporting events, big fairs, big, large gatherings where people are not in an unauthorized gathering, but they're allowed to be there, and you just use it for, quick response to some incident in a crowd, a fight, a shooting, theft, any number of things. Anyway, so if we look at like the Fourth Amendment, is this really, there's some things kind of in the social contract that we give up, and that is the social contract. And the social contract like we've mentioned before on this channel, is not between citizens necessarily, although there can be some form of it between citizens. It really is, well, that's not what I was looking for. It really is between the state and the people. And the idea behind it is you give a little bit up as a private citizen for a lot of safety and security and protection and enforcement of laws and things of that nature. But it always goes too far. So if we're going to talk about the Fourth Amendment and, is this a violation of your Fourth Amendment right, we have to start talking about, too, that if these really are license plate readers, which they do serve that function, not going to lie, the idea is that they're searching some sort of license plate database and looking for criminals. They're looking for people who are on the run for murders, the rape word, any number of major crimes, and probably just people with warrants. But really, it's being sold to us that it's people with major crimes that are on the run from other municipalities, other states, things of that nature. So there is a utility use to these invasive cameras and the camera network, but there's also going to be some side effects of that. I mean, you can distill this down to, well, if the police just set up a roadblock somewhere and just checked every single person's driver's license, insurance, ran their name, they would catch a whole bunch of criminals that way. But we all understand that that's an unreasonable search and seizure. You are being unduly stopped and searched by the government. And remember, police are just nothing more than the foot soldiers of the government. Now, that sounds like a pejorative. That sounds like I hate all cops, which I don't. But the fact of the matter is the cops are the enforcement wing of the power of government. That's what it is. If tomorrow the federal government passes a law that says you can't have guns anymore and they're going to start confiscating guns, well, guess who's going to enforce it? It's not going to be the politicians. It's going to be a whole bunch of guys in badges talking about their pension. So there's that. So let's look at the Fourth Amendment, what it says. So the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution, which, mind you, protects a right, does not grant a right. This is protection. And if we recall from our civics class in high school or maybe junior high, which was probably not taught correctly to you, if it was taught to you at all. But basically, the amendments to the constitutions are what the government is not allowed to infringe on. They're not allowed to violate. These are your God-given rights. They are not enumerated, so there can be rights outside of what is listed. But the fact of the matter is that the government is supposed to protect these amendments to the Constitution, not restrict. So with that in mind, let's look at the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. Okay. Seems pretty clear, cut and dry that if you're just running someone's tag and you're looking at their face and there's a facial recognition aspect to this as well, which has been used to catch people who are walking down the street on a sidewalk near a road and they saw facial recognition that recognized some sort of criminal or someone on the run that had a warrant or was out, they're looking for this guy and it had facial recognition. That is unreasonable search and seizure. That is, you're not safe and secure in your person. Papers, effects is going to extend to your automobile because it would have extended to your horse carriage, or if you had, saddles upon your horse at the time that had your personal effects, that's going to be your effects. That's where, if you get stopped by the police in your vehicle, they cannot search your vehicle without some sort of actual probable cause, not just going, hey, can I search your vehicle? And you go, no. And you go, well, the fact that you don't want me to let you search your vehicle means I get to search your vehicle because you're acting suspicious. Fuck you, die. You can't do that. Anyway, but there is a plain view doctrine that exists that if they look into your vehicle and they see someone bound and gagged in your back seat, well, they can't just go, well, I can't search. But in plain view, they can see that. Or if you're walking down the street and you have a knife that has blood all over it and blood on your hand, and someone laying on the street behind you, or just the bloody knife, they can go, hey man, why is there blood all over that knife and why do you have it out? Seems fair and reasonable. That would be a reasonable search. The Fourth Amendment protects against unreasonable searches. But this idea that you're constantly running people's tags to me, is unreasonable. And there's the argument that can be made that, well, you're driving on a public street, therefore the government can harass you in effect. And it's like, no, because it's public and we are the public and we pay for that. Therefore, again, the government should be providing the road, maintaining the road, keeping it in good working order, clearing it of debris and clearing it of people who are not allowed to be there, and clearing it of any sort of objects or other broken down cars. But that doesn't give you, like, if I was walking down the sidewalk, which is adjacent to a street, in public on a public sidewalk, that does not give the police the ability to go, all right, empty your pockets right now. There has to be some sort of probable cause. There has to be a reason for them to request these things. They have to have some sort of, again, reasonable suspicion of some sort of crime that's been committed. Not that I'm going to commit a crime or that I might have committed a crime, but they don't know, but they need my ID to check. You're not allowed to do that. And no, I don't have to give you my identification. I'm sorry. If you want to detain me, that's fine, I guess. But no, again, what crime am I alleged to have committed? Those things. So you driving down the road on a public road does not entitle the government to violate your Fourth Amendment rights. Again, same thing with the vehicle. You're not allowed to just search a vehicle without some sort of probable cause of a crime being committed or in the midst of being committed. You're not allowed to just search any random car. So if we continue down that line, people will say, well, you have to have a driver's license to drive that vehicle, and you have to have insurance on that vehicle, and you have to have a registration of that vehicle, whether that be like an inspection or a registration, on your tags and all of that. So the government is allowed to search the vehicle or stop the vehicle or do whatever. They're allowed to read the tag because it's their tag. Therefore, they can do that, and it's totally legal. It's like, well, no, you're not allowed to circumvent my rights by requiring some sort of other thing to happen. Therefore, you have some sort of possession over my vehicle or my personal effects or my identity and my security of my person. So you're not allowed to do that and then be able to use it as a backdoor to search it. That's not how that works. It's nothing more to drive tax revenue anyway. And how would you know whether I have a driver's license or not? You don't even know who I am. So you're running this information based on this tag and coming back with who you think I am or what you think I am. The other thing is that if you're doing this and the criminals know you're doing this, one of the obvious tactics of criminals already is that if they're in a vehicle, like a stolen vehicle, without giving out too much, criminals already know how to do this. It's not going to matter. So I can talk about it. If somebody steals like a white Camaro, they know that tag is hot on that white Camaro. So you go to like a Walmart or somewhere else where there's a whole bunch of cars and you find like another white Camaro would be ideal, or at least another Camaro. And you take the tag off of that and put it on yours and put the other one on there. Just throw it down. It doesn't matter. But now you have a valid tag that comes back to a Camaro that's not stolen. So you can then fly under the radar, and this is what's going to happen with all of this flock stuff as well, is that just is going to go up. So if you're, the whole safety aspect, it goes out the window really, really quickly, okay? The more that these flock cameras are going up, the criminals will respond in kind. So this is nothing more than a mass surveillance on the public. And the thing is not only is it mass surveillance, it is data, and it is digital data that is going to be used by Flock and their ilk and the other companies that do this and sold on the open market to someone else, or it's going to be used to sell their product to bigger and badder places throughout the country and the globe more properly. So the thing that you need to do is call your local government officials, state officials, whoever, and tell them that you don't want these damn things. You don't want the data centers. You don't want any of this to happen. Yes, I understand the hypocrisy of me talking about not having a data center. I'm doing a show that is over the interwebs. But you can stop these things. You can push back on these things. You're seeing that data centers are getting shut down all over the place. Look, If somebody wants to put in a data center, then you get to fund it on your own. You get to power it on your own. You get to provide its own water. You get to do all of those things on your own. If I want to build a home, if I want to build a business of mine, then guess what? I have to do all of those things on my own. I don't get subsidies from the government. I don't get bailouts. I don't get any kind of special interest. Oh, but it's going to bring jobs and tax revenue. No, it's not. It's going to bring like 8 jobs, and it's going to bring a whole bunch of dudes on H-1B visas from fucking India and a whole bunch of dots to undermine our society and our culture even more in America. And no American's going to get that job. Instead, we're going to get spied on by all of this, mixed with the whole flock camera network that's going on. And these things are everywhere. And if you haven't seen them, it's because you're blind to what they actually look like. It's nothing more than all black, a camera, and a solar panel, and it's a standalone system. You don't even have to run electric to it. This thing stands alone. It never turns off. It's always running, and we don't know who's running it. We don't know where the data is going. We don't know what they're actually doing with this. You know, if it's hooked up to the internet and if it's on the cloud, then it can be accessed from anywhere. If they can access it remotely, anyone can access it remotely. And all of this stuff is going to come back to bite us in the ass. You know, more and more of this, and you see so many people who defend this like, oh, it's such a good thing. They caught this criminal. It's like, how could you not catch that criminal already? Why were you not looking for them? This was a local criminal. You just weren't looking for them. Why were they on the street? Why were they out on bail? Why was a guy who had a sexual assault charge or a rape charge or a murder charge or a manslaughter charge, why are they out on the streets running around and then they ran? Obviously, you didn't do your job, government. So it's more like, you know, government solutions to government created problems. And that's kind of the biggest thing. And the other part is like, I don't want to be read by a goddamn camera everywhere I go. Yes, you know, I'm on a camera right now. My face is all over the internet. But that's my choice. I can do this or I don't have to do this. But with a flock camera, I'm just getting surveilled constantly and I don't like it. So if your local people won't listen, you know, there's any number of things you can do. Again, they're not hooked up to the grid, so you don't have to worry about being electrocuted. You know, if they get run over, it's unfortunate. If they get taken down by like crows or some other mechanism, that's unfortunate. But if they were to just kind of like kindly disappear overnight, no one's going to care. No one's going to worry about it. And there's some patriot out in New Mexico wearing an American flag shirt who not only has said he's taken down a number of flock cameras, that he's going to keep doing it. And he is an absolute patriot and a fucking hero. And buy that man a beer if he drinks. If not, buy him a whore. Anyway, we need to defrock the flock cameras. Get them out. Try it by the legal way. That doesn't work. Move on to more invasive measures. So, apparently Trump had a speech about China last night. Was it last night? Last night or night? I didn't watch. Okay, but allegedly. According to certain things, he came out and said that China was involved in rigging the 2020 election. I don't know how many details he gave, but I'm not going to respond too much to what he said. One, I didn't hear it, but two, it's not really the point. The point is more broad, and that's what I try to do on this show, is give you kind of the broader point. And the thing is like, if Trump's a China hawk and we have a problem with China, then why are we constantly trading with them? That's what I don't understand. You know, if there was any trading, it was very minimal, but there was pretty much no trading other than us giving them food with the Soviet Union because we were in a Cold War with them. We didn't like them. They didn't like us. You know, we worked together a little bit on the space program, came with the International Space Station. But the thing is we weren't trading goods and services with the Soviets. We weren't. We were hostile. We were at war, albeit a Cold War, but we were at war with the Soviet Union. And if we're at war in some sort of Cold War with China, or they're stealing all of these things, or undermining our elections, or doing any number of nefarious things, why are we still trading with them? Why don't we just break their economy? That's what I don't understand. You know, there's a lot of people that say that this Iran war was some strategic move, the move in Venezuela to capture and detain Maduro to get him out of there. that the Venezuela move and the Iran move is some sort of geopolitical chess move against China and the Chinese interests. And that may be true, but the thing is the biggest move against China and the Chinese interest would be to get rid of all trade with China and put in trade embargoes in any number of things and just crush their economy. I mean, we're like the largest consumer economy on planet Earth. Where would China sell their wares if we just said, nope, no more Chinese shit? Make it in Taiwan, make it in Singapore, make it in wherever, make it in Israel, make it Vietnam, any number of places. What happens then? Well, it's probably not good for the Chinese because they collapse probably overnight. Sorry, Coca-Cola's going to have to pull out of China. Tesla's going to have to pull out of China. Any number of other companies are going to have to pull out of China. NBA, no more Chinese games. Or you can just go be Chinese. I don't really care. But why are we still engaged in massive trade? Why are they still part of the World Trade Organization if we're hawkish on China? I don't really understand this. If China is this adversary that I'm being told that they are, why are we not taking a posture that we took against the Soviets? It can even be a détente posture like Nixon did with the Soviets. It can be a Reagan-style posture of they lose, we win in this whole thing. And, can we not take the lessons from Ronald Reagan of you crush them economically? You're not going to beat them in a war, nor would you want to try to get into a war and crush them militarily. Beat them on the economic side. Even though they're integrated with some sort of fascistic system at this point where the state is locked into private business and they're a big part of it, they're still communist at best or socialist at best or worse, however you want to look at it economically. So you could crush them pretty easily. We've done it before. Are we worried that they're going to they're threatening the monetary standard. They're threatening the petrodollar. They're threatening the dollar as a reserve currency around the globe. So why not just take them out now? Instead of, why not just get rid of all the Chinese trade and just move everything to Africa or something like that? I mean, I think Africans can make cheap shit that breaks after 100 uses or something like that, or some cheap hat or, any number of things. Maybe they can't. I don't really know. But if nothing else, we should at least have some sort of foreign policy that involves the continent of Africa and the natural resources there. And we really don't. We're too busy trying to fight Boko Haram or in Somalia and drop bombs instead of actually, if we're going to spend all this money, it's this weird dichotomy of people where they're like, it's fine if we blow up Islamic fundamentalists and terrorists and things like that, so long as their name's Boko Haram or whatever else, or blow up the people trying to kill Christians. But no, don't go over there and take gold or nothing like that, or oil or any other, precious metals or things like that, natural resources. That would be bad. That would be immoral. Okay, but blowing up people, that's perfectly moral, even though Boko Haram has no way to attack the United States. But, hey, I digress. So that's my take on what we're doing with China. I don't really understand that whatsoever, but I don't know. They steal elections or interfere in elections. There is the bullshit about TikTok, and there's still a whole bunch of people on the left and the right especially who still believe the whole TikTok thing was about the Chinese data and the Chinese data mining and the CCP having a backdoor or being integrated into TikTok or ByteDance or whatever it is. And that might be a minuscule part, but the real story was they had to get all the stuff about Gaza off of there. It's the sad truth of it all. And to bring up Iran, again, we're back to hostilities. And I just wanted to kind of recap, just off the top of my head, how the Iran war, how we got to this point. You'll remember a little over a year ago, of June of 2025, we had Operation Midnight Hammer, in which we went along with the Israelis, who had been bombing them for about a week and a half before. This is the 14-day war. They were lighting them up. We were providing logistical support and, mid-air refueling and things like that, but we hadn't really gotten to the shit yet. We hadn't flown any sorties, but we did Midnight Hammer, where we took some B-2s from Missouri. They flew round trip, went over there, lit their ass up with 14 13, 12 big-ass bombs and devastated their nuclear facilities. At least we were told that, they basically did the Top Gun plan, but they did it with B-2s, where you hit like an air shaft or something, and you open a hole, and you keep throwing bombs down the same hole. And, Pete Hegseth is really good at throwing things back down the same hole. The dude's got like 8 kids. Not making fun of him, just, it is what it is. So he's real good at putting things back in the same hole over and over again, and he did that real well, and we blew up their nuclear facility. We were told that devastated their nuclear program. That was the end of that. So that's how this all started. And then on February the 28th, we went hot right after a show I did where I said, please don't go to war with Iran. And like a few hours later, we were lighting them up. And then it was look, guys, we're going in. We're going to devastate Iran. They can't ever have a nuclear weapon. They're about to get a nuclear weapon. They're killing civilians. They're killing protesters. And again, they're still going with this like 70,000 number of protesters. Trump repeated it again here recently. Like, that's not true. Show me the stacks of bodies. You can't. So, but you remember when we went to war, they said, guys, don't worry. This is not another one of those wars in the Middle East. This is going to be weeks, not months. So now we're months into this. If you say March, what is that? Let's just go with March, even though it started in February. March, April, May, and June. That's 4 months. 4 solid months. So we're 4.5 months into a war with Iran. Yeah, there's been some stoppages in between, but the hostilities really haven't stopped for more than like maybe 24 hours. So we're back to bombing them. Remember that. Then it went from weeks, not months, to, well, we got a regime change him because dude's bad, and we blew up basically like their top 130 people who they just replaced back. Now it's all about the Strait of Hormuz. We have to open the Strait of Hormuz. This is the sticking point of the Strait of Hormuz. That's fun. We've now started to blow up power plants and power infrastructure within Iran, from what I understand. And Iran told the Houthis in Yemen, who the Houthis are not the actual group. That's like the last name. I forget the actual rebel group name. Well, they're not the rebel group. They're the ruling group now of Yemen. But anyway, they're more commonly known as the Houthis, who we had a ceasefire with because they were harassing ships out there in the Gulf of Eden, I believe. Can't remember exactly the Gulf out there. But anyway, we had a ceasefire with them because we kept trying to bomb them into submission. This is a point that no one ever seems to remember, is that Joe Biden was bombing the Houthis, kind of stopped. When Trump got in, he started lighting up the Houthis, and they said, bring it the fuck on, and kept shooting missiles and sending drones to ships and harassing shipping until we, Donald Trump, said, okay, we're good. You don't shoot at us. We won't shoot at you. And we didn't include the Israelis in that, mind you, but we're supposed to include the Israelis in this Iran thing. But no one ever remembers that we just signed an agreement with the Houthis like, hey, man, just don't hit the American ships. And they're like, all right, cool. We'll let the whole Gaza thing go. We're cool. But now Iran is tagging in the Houthis in response to their power plants being struck and telling the Houthis to shut down the Bab al-Mandab Strait, which is basically the strait on the other side of the Arabian Peninsula. So you have the Strait of Hormuz here, then you have the strait, the Bab al-Mandab Strait on the other side, Saudi Arabia, the Arabian Peninsula in between. So you have Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Oman. Yemen is controlled by the Houthis at this point, and they have the same technology that Iran has as far as like drone technology and small little, they probably have just small mortars. But the thing is like the Al-Mandab Strait can be shut down much more easily because there's a even finer choke point, a shorter choke point on it. Now, I don't believe that as much, natural resources go through that strait. But the thing is like if Saudi Arabia thought about going the opposite direction, the Houthis are about to put the fucking end to that. So that's where we're at with Iran. This is after 38 peace deals had fallen apart. As far as I know, the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, is still a kind of work in process. I don't know, but not good. This leads me into JD Vance went on Joe Rogan. I have not finished the entire episode yet. But here's the thing. I really like JD Vance. Every time I hear him talk, especially in kind of a candid way, a kind of relaxed way on a Rogan type podcast, I like him even more. I understand he's speaking politician a lot of times. He's not putting himself out over his skis, but Rogan asked him if he was president, would he have done what Donald Trump did in Iran? And he gave a great answer. He gave a political answer, but he gave a great answer, and it's the answer that cackles, what's her name? Kamala Harris should have given when she was asked about would she have changed anything that Joe Biden did, and she just said no, and there's nothing ahead of there's nothing she could have thought of. What she really should have said is, look, here's the thing. I'm not the president. I'm the number 2. I'm supposed to back the president's move. I give him advice. He asks me for my advice. We discuss it. He takes that in consideration, and he does what he does. I would not have accepted this job if I didn't understand that I'm the number 2. Maybe one day I'll be the number 1, and I would like to be the number 1 or not or whatever. But the idea here is that when I'm the number 2, I got to back his move. It's a very lonely place to be the president of the United States. It's a big house, very lonely at times. I cannot turn my back on that person. If it's a decision that I can get my head around, or morally or legally, however you got to coach it, whatever your shoreline is, if you will, coach it that way and say, look, man, there are some things that I would have done different, but I'm not going to mention them here, and I'm not going to throw him under the bus like that. That's my guy. I got to back his move, and that's what we're doing. And anybody's got a problem with it, square up. And that's basically what JD Vance did. He said, look, I'm not a pundit. I don't speak on these things. I'm not a person who talks about these things. I give my advice. I tell the president what I think. End of the day, it's his decision. I got to back his decision. Now, if it was something immorally wrong or something crazy, we're going to nuke whatever, that's a difference. I'm paraphrasing. JD Vance didn't say anything about nuclear weapons, but I think anybody with half a brain can understand that when you're the number 2 in a political situation, or even at work, so many of the people bitching are like number 400 at work. With what I do, I'm on the food chain, if you will. Like, I am asked for input from time to time, and I give that input. And sometimes we do what I suggest or some version of it, and sometimes we don't. And I'm not going to throw a hissy fit and be like, well, I fucking quit. You wouldn't do what I said. It's like, that's not your role. And your role is not to, with something, if they implement a policy at your job and you were some sort of, advisor, let's say, or what have you, they do something at your job, at your place of employment, at your company. Maybe you're, bought into the company or something like that, and you gave your advice and they went a different direction and it didn't work out. The I told you so doesn't really work necessarily, maybe behind closed doors, depending on your relationship. But the thing is like, look, man, we tried this thing. We're in it now. We're in it, up to however many dollars or whatever it is. And like, okay, we're not going to do that again. And we're going to work through this. We're going to get through this. It's not going to be easy. We've dedicated a lot of money and resources to this thing. We understand when we're beat or when things aren't going the way we want. And let's get out of this thing as quick and as painless as possible. It's not going to be pain-free, but we might be painless. Less pain overall. If you can't understand that, you need to shut the fuck up and quit talking about things, because that's how this works. And seeing, before I listened to any 1 second of JD Vance going on the Joe Rogan podcast, I saw one of those stupid Ben Shapiro response clips where he's doing this in the camera. By the way, one of the things I cannot stand about YouTube is thumbnails. It's not that I don't like thumbnails. It's what people do with thumbnails, where they're doing the shoulder shrug, I don't know. What I call the Jon Stewart, just asking questions. Or the whatever, the like, oh, it's so hot, it's so bad. Like, if you're going to be in the thumbnail of your YouTube video, it should be something along the lines of like what Grand Thumb does, where it's like a still shot generally of him using whatever rifle or pistol or whatever. This whole thing of like, I'm going to make the face and I'm going to do the thing, or I'm Ben Shapiro and I'm like, look at how interesting I am. You're not interesting, dude. You're not. I cannot stand the thumbnails. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. So Ben Shapiro has this response, and he tweeted it. And why don't I just find the damn tweet? Reproducing. Let's see here. God damn, I gotta look up Ben Shapiro. Sorry, I'm not gonna play his voice though. Ben Shapiro. Maybe it's the Ben Shapiro show. Facts still don't care about your feelings. Well, okay. Ooh. Some rough broads in this. Let's see how we go here. Okay, here's the tweet. The tweet says, it's a link to his YouTube. Good for him. I got to figure out how to do that, by the way. Anyway, so the Ben Shapiro tweet, it's a link to his episode on YouTube where he talks about, I guess, the JD Vance appearance on Rogan. And here's what it says. I tuned into Joe Rogan yesterday and heard Bernie Sanders' economics, Barack Obama's foreign policy, and Ro Khanna's conspiracy theories. And then I realized JD Vance was talking. I want a candidate in 2028 who doesn't mirror the Democrats and who can win. Mr. VP, this is not the way. Okay. Let's just go back to that. So he heard Bernie Sanders' economics. Well, I haven't heard really any economics being talked about yet. And Barack Obama's foreign policy. He said that the war in Syria was stupid. He said that the war in Libya was stupid. The overthrowing of Libya was stupid. So you want that? That was Barack Obama's foreign policy, Ben Shapiro? Oh, wait, you like both of those things. And Ro Khanna's conspiracy theories. He actually kind of talks down about Ro Khanna in the episode. I guess you missed that part, or someone, you probably paid some intern to give you some sort of like synopsis, or maybe you used like, an AI or something like that, and it probably lied to you. But I'm also noticing, looking at this this thumbnail, that Ben Shapiro has some red in that beard, so that's interesting. Anyway, perhaps we're not as pure as we think. It's very odd, and this is going to lead me into the whole Con Inc. thing. The conservative Inc., I didn't really buy into Con Inc. 5 years ago. My buddy Fox, Lawyer Fox, on the Twitters, that's not his handle. But if you know Fox, you know Fox. He was hip to this game way back. And, there's been times where I thought he was nuts. And maybe he is nuts. But I like nuts. I get along with some, normal nuts. Not like, I got to stab the president to impress a girl nuts, or shoot a president to impress a girl nuts. But I like, a mid-grade of nuts, if you will. Nuts with the job, or nuts with the mortgage and job, or nuts with responsibilities, which Fox has. And I don't mean I don't know if Fox is going to listen to this, but I love you, buddy. You're great. And he's a guy that I've actually met in person. I like him a lot. People have this misconception of him, which I don't really care for, but it is what it is. But he was really hip to this stuff early on. And I always took it with a grain of salt, not because I didn't believe him, and not because I didn't want to believe him, but I hadn't quite seen it. I hadn't taken the red pill, if you will. But now that you see the things happening, and the whole conservative Inc., and where he and I kind of disagreed was with the Steven Crowder Daily Wire thing, if you remember that from years ago, where Steven Crowder, I forget, was moving on and wanted to try to become a part of the Daily Wire, and contract negotiations got really weird. And he went on the attack, Crowder did, talking about Conservative Inc. and all of those things, and really kind of calling out some different names and what have you. And I thought it was kind of out around. I didn't really particularly care for it. And it's not necessarily that Steven Crowder was wrong in what he was saying, but the tact and the way he was doing it. And allegedly him and Jeremy Boring were friends, even according, I think, to Crowder, they were friends. And him and Shapiro were at least friendly. So I really don't like that stuff. And then, then the way he treated Dave Landau, I didn't really like that. Dave Landau is a really funny comedian. He's fine, by the way. He landed on his feet. He's now on a show on, what is it? The Blaze with Stu Grenier, and they do Stu and Dave Do America or something like that. Really funny show. Really like that. Really funny comedian. Stu's really good. Stu's a good straight man. Literally and figuratively. But anyway, so the whole conservative ink thing is a thing, and it keeps showing its ugly head, and it really bothers me because it's so stupid. And I want to show you 2 tweets from the not great Joel Berry. Joel Berry is a former Babylon Bee person. He was with the Babylon Bee, I believe, as a writer, content creator. Actually, he was there when the Babylon Bee was like funny, so I'll give him that he's probably the reason the Babylon Bee was funny back in the day. And I think he's a former Daily Wire guy. I think he had some time there, but I don't know that to be fact. But he is currently the producer of the Jeremy Boring podcast. Freudian slip. Podcast on PragerU, I believe is who does that. So I'm going to show you this first tweet here. So this is from Joel Berry from today at 8:44 in the a.m. I assume that was Central Time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Joel Berry tweets, "The younger generations will soon realize the anti-Israel stuff was an op, just like BLM and COVID. When that occurs, there will be a massive Gen Z pro-Israel reaction." No, there won't. Because here's the thing. The op is the opposite of what you're saying. The op is that Israel's our greatest ally. They can do no wrong. They're the only functioning Western civilization in the Middle East, and they must be protected at all costs. It doesn't matter what it costs or who they have to kill. They have to be protected, and they're basically a small United States of America in the Middle East and technically West Asia, but in the Middle East. Okay, and that it doesn't matter what it costs, whether that's lives or treasure, that we have to back every move that they make. And yeah, no, that's not. Here's the thing, buddy. Before I get to how he contradicts himself in the same day, here's the thing. Here's what Con Inc. does. And Con Inc. is guys like Joel Berry, again, Ben Shapiro's, Jeremy Boring, Will Chamberlain, Dave Rubin, if he still speaks, all of these guys, you'll hear the same talking points. James Lindsay has become one of these, even though he's not a conservative. He's just a leftist masquerading he's at a masquerade ball and no one knows he's there in the conservative circles. But Tucker Carlson's not a conservative. So here's the thing, man. Here's what all these Con Inc. guys do is they use the same leftist tactics. And I don't think Joel Berry's smart enough to understand what he's doing, but he may be, which makes him some sort of like a Machiavellian character. I think a guy like Ben Shapiro is smart enough to know what he's doing. But here's what they do. So they use the same leftist tactics of taking this like group, creating a victim class out of them, or creating a monolith out of them, therefore then try to create some sort of victim group out of this monolith that they already created. So a guy like Joel Berry will not segregate or delineate between the Israeli government and the Israeli people, which is what anybody who's questioning Israel is questioning the Israeli government. Just like when I say us, I mean our government. Like, I don't like that we are attacking Iran. Well, the we is not my neighbors. They didn't attack Iran, or anybody necessarily listening to this show, which I don't know if anyone in government listens to this show. If you do, shout out. But the we is the government, the federal government, okay? That's the we. Same thing when I say I don't like what Israel is doing in Gaza or the West Bank or in Syria or in Jordan or in the Golan Heights, which is Syria, I understand, or what they're doing in Lebanon. Like, I don't like those things. I'm not talking about some random Israeli citizen who could be, there's a 75% chance that they're of Jewish descent, and there's a 25% chance that they're like an Arab or a Christian. So they create this monolith that all persons of Israel are Israelis, and they are the government, and they are all Jewish, which they're not, mind you. That's another talking point that has fallen off since this whole like questioning of our relationship with Israel has come around, is that they used to tell you, no, Israel's not an apartheid state. 25% of the population are non-Jews. They're like Arab and Muslim and Christian and what have you, non-Muslim Arabs and all of that. They tell you 25% of them. There's representation in the Knesset. There's representation on their Supreme Court. So it's not an apartheid state because we have 25% of the population is this other group. And it's like, okay, great. Well, if that's still the same thing, then it's like, okay, so if I criticize Israel, you tell me that I'm anti-Semite. How do you know I wasn't criticizing the 25% that aren't Jewish? So I digress. Anyway. So what these guys do is they create this monolith, which then they create a victim class. And if this starts to sound very familiar, like COVID or BLM, BLM somehow included all black people and the LGBTQIA Air Force group. I don't understand that, but they were all glommed together, and it somehow included paralyzed people or handicapped people or whatever. Like BLM was this all-encompassing thing that was not about black people. If this is sounding familiar, then clap your hands together for yourself, because apparently you're at least slightly red-pilled, because that's exactly what these guys do. And then when you create this monolith and you create this out-group or in-group or whatever however it lines up with you, you create this monolithic group and you tell us that they're all the same and they're all good and they all are great and we must bow down and we must, lay gifts at the altar for this great and wonderful idol that is Israel. And then when you do that, when you have an issue with the government of Israel, even as a normie, when you create this monolithic group, what you create is blowback against the same group, because you yourself have grouped them all together as one. And so like, well, okay, if you're going to group them together as one, someone who's supposedly in the know and loves these people and is like bowing down to them and is telling me how great they are, well, he says they're one people. Well, I guess I don't like that one people. So you create the issue you supposedly don't like. And if you think that Gen Z is going to come around on Israel, you're a retard. A complete and utter retard. But I digress. Let's go back, or let's go forward to this one. Mind you, this was 5 hours after that previous post. This was 5 hours after. Joel Berry tweets, "What a gay way to characterize this." Okay? Not everything is an op, retards. This is called, quote, conservatives disagreeing about the best candidate to represent us, end quote. Stake out your position and debate it like a man. I'm actually open-minded about both Rubio and Vance, so convince me. Vance is not being helped by his supporters acting like craven, conniving, manipulative effeminates who would rather call disagreement and, quote, op, end quote, than earn votes and lead. So 5 hours later, not everything is an op, retards. These people are not very bright. They just do these things. They say these things. They don't even understand what they're saying. Every tweet they think exists like just for that second and the people who saw it, and then it goes away. And then 5 hours later, you completely contradict yourself and you're not even any good at this, dipshit. Like, okay, so now you're homophobic based on what you said and based on your own standard, because all gay people are the same, and to use the word gay as some sort of pejorative means you're homophobic, right, Joel? I mean, it's crazy to see this. Not everything is an op, retards. Okay, bud. So it's only an op when Joel says it's an op, but he's not really smart enough to understand what an op is. Like, let's go back to the previous one where he said that this is going to be an op just like BLM and COVID. Well, who pushed BLM and COVID, Joel? Was it Gen Z? Who pushed it, Joel? Who pushed BLM and COVID? Was it the corporate media? Who's been pushing the whole Israel narrative since my entire life and is still pushing it to this point? Is it the corporate media, Joel? Who pushed back against BLM and COVID? Was it the podcasters? Was it the people who just were out of work and so they set up shop A guy like Clint Russell, who was out of work, so he set up shop and created a podcast, and now he started questioning BLM and COVID. And were those people good on BLM and COVID, or were they wrong? Because they're the same people questioning the whole Israel relationship. I don't know. How was Gen Z on BLM and COVID? Do you think they've come around? Do you think that now they're like, oh yeah, we definitely should have wore the masks on COVID? Or do you think they're more staunchly against it now than they ever have been? Do you think they're more pissed off about it than you are, Joel? You act like you're mad about COVID and BLM, but you know what? You went right along with it. You did. There was that second where you were like, man, I should go along with this, because you have no balls, Joel. You'll fall for anything because you stand for nothing. You just get told what to believe, and that's what you believe. Joel, you're as pathetic a human being as I've ever seen. You're just out there wanting the clicks, wanting the like, wanting to be seen, wanting to be known, all of that. Do you think the people who were right from the get-go on Black Lives Matter and COVID, now you think they're the op and you think they're wrong about the American relationship with the state of Israel? That's your position, Joel? Your former boss, your current boss of Jeremy Boring, your current boss, and your former boss, Ben Shapiro, were for the jabs initially. They were telling people to do the COVID restrictions, to do all the things that Anthony Fauci said, because they went right along with it. Were they staunchly anti-BLM when it came up in 2012? No. They were just anti-Obama. And so anything Obama was for, they were against. See, this is where Connie doesn't really understand the game that's being played. They're just reactionary. Oh, the left did this. We don't like it. Oh, the left doesn't like this. We might like it. It's the same thing with all of a sudden they're fawning over Nicki Minaj. You remember that a couple months back? Oh, Nicki Minaj is great because now she's like said things that conservatives like. Or is she just some shitty ass rapper who shakes her ass? But so long as you say the right thing, like Dave Rubin, I'll say the right things, but I'll buy kids on the side. But so long as I say the right things, I can be in the conservative tent. Doesn't matter that you buy kids, two homosexual men buying kids. What could go wrong? That never went wrong. Don't know why that's allowed, but hey, here we are. United States of America, two gay men just buying kids. Just buying kids. Don't worry about us. But Iran's the problem. Interesting. So Joel Berry's a dipshit. I'm going to end with this. And no, it's not a happy note. But maybe I can figure out a happy way to end this. Maybe it is a happy note. I'll let you be the judge. So apparently, according to one news source on the Twitters, there have begun preparations for plans of an invasion of Cuba, which, mind you, is kind of a misnomer. It's kind of like, it's one way to put it. I'll bet you those plans already existed. But I saw that and I thought, wow, invasion of Cuba. Again, feels like we could just crush them economically without firing a shot. Or we could take, and those plans allegedly included the 101st Airborne parachuting into Cuba and overthrowing, taking it over. I mean, Cuba would probably be pretty easy, at least militarily. It won't be without bloodshed, but it'd be pretty easy. You have Guantanamo Bay, you have a jump-off point, you have a resupply. It's only 90 miles away. You have complete air superiority. You're going to have escalation dominance. It's right there in our hemisphere. No one can come and save them. No one can come and help them. You're going to lose guys, and it's going to be bad for a bit, but it wouldn't be hard. But I was sitting here thinking that why not use those resources to liberate, I don't know, Canada? Apparently, they have started intentional fires, so the smoke would then flow south into the United States, clogging our beautiful air. And this aggression cannot stand, man. This aggression against the people of Detroit, Greater Michigan, cannot stand. And apparently it's also in Minnesota affecting some of my friends, and it's now gotten so far south as into like parts of Indiana what we call the Midwest and God's country. God's country is a big part. It also includes northeastern Oklahoma. But this is also God's country. And this aggression, like I said, cannot stand. So the 101st Airborne needs to invade and liberate Canada. There I said it. It needed to be said. There is much more of a argument to liberation of Canada and overthrowing of their government than there is the liberation of Iran and the overthrowing of their government. At least us and the Canadians are two like peoples who share a language, and it would be nice if Canada was liberated from the pieces of shit that run the country. Let this be a lesson to everyone who says we need more than two political parties. No, you don't, because then you basically just end up with a parliamentary system that just puts people in control. And that's not working out either. Look, America has the worst political system in the world until you compare it to all of the others, and then it gets ranked pretty fucking high. Here's the thing. Invade Canada, stop the fires. Maybe we should even nuke them. I don't know. There's at least one guy got to get out of there before we nuke him because he's cool as shit, literally. We got to get him out of there. Although he knows his way out, he's been out before. But here's the thing. Just think how nice it would be. Canada becomes America. They can't vote. They're just our subjects. But we get to drive up there, fish their lakes, fish their rivers, shoot their animals. You know, they're wild game, not their dogs. But, like, go up there hunting. It could be a sportsman's paradise. And Louisiana would have to give up that title, which I don't think they've earned, unless you can include mosquitoes, because yuck. It's all the tropical weather with none of the tropics. Fuck that. And people saying, we know, that's what it sounds like. But we should liberate Canada with the 101st Airborne. We'd be greeted as liberators, and it would be very quick because we basically are the Canadian forces at this point. And then we can get rid of their MAID system, who's killing 100,000 people a year on the taxpayer dole. So there's that. And also, before I go to Die Free Co. on the World Wide Webs. Get all the things you want. Put them in your cart. Enter the code TOXIC10 at the end and save 10%. But I'm going to show you something that arrived here lately, not too long ago. I have become a member. I have joined the Rock and Lock Club of America. That's right. I have acquired an AK-47 7.62 by 39. This is the PSA Saber AK. This is the way it came and painted. Badass. I know you're all jealous. 14.5 pin and welded. Built off a Romanian receiver and whatnot. I have some other parts coming for it. But yes, we have joined Team Rock and Lock. This is as commie as I get is a rifle. This thing's badass. I don't care what you say. And it's full on AK. Just kind of updated. And it fucks, to say the least. So, that being said, everybody go out. Arm yourselves to the teeth. Destroy your local flock cameras within reason. Don't actually destroy them unless you feel obligated. Get rid of the Defrock the flock cameras. Go out. Shoot guns, do things, be cool, stay American. And until next time, everybody have a good weekend. We'll see you here next Friday on another live stream. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or YouTube or wherever, thank you very much. And thank everybody on the Rumble. Thank everybody on Twitter. Thank everybody. It feels like I'm leaving something out. Either way, thank you everybody who listens to this. Pass it along to your friends. You can come hang out on a live stream every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Central Time. You can comment. I read comments when I see them. Might make you part of the show. But until then, shoot guns, be cool, and have fun. Peace.